Well, that was very tense. That was very tense, and now I'm very concerned for Daisuke. Also, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to our weekly Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited discussion video. Today we're going to be talking all about episode 5, If Money Will Not Be Thy Master, It Will Be Thy Servant. But before we get into that, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. I don't know why I said it like Philip DeFranco, but, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to be filled in. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the video, shall we? What is this opening? Okay, so this week's episode, there's 3 things that I really want to talk about. One of them, and the biggest one to me, is the idea that Daisuke might be in serious, and I mean life-threatening trouble. I want to talk about the friggin', honestly, and I say this with a slight grain of irony, but the toxic work environment that is the police department of our particular series. And I also want to just kind of quickly shout out the squad towards the end of the video, because honestly, even though they don't really contribute to the overall mystery, and it's not really much of a mystery, we kind of know what's going on right away, but even though the rest of the gang don't really contribute in a big bad way, like the way that Daisuke and Haru do, they actually do help out in ways that they really wouldn't have been able to save Daisuke without the crew. So I want to shout them out, except for our girl. I feel like Suzue could have not been involved, and the story would have played out the same. But Suzue does something really cool that I do want to talk about. But regardless, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about Daisuke, because the Daisuke thing is what's really getting me, And I think we have to start by saying that the episode opens with, well, not opens with, but the mystery, rather, the situation of the week, has the Modern Crimes Division gang all hanging out outside of this embassy. And Daisuke's supposed to be with them, but he's not there. And they say that Daisuke's grandmother is feeling sort of under the weather. I believe Saiki says that, the cute pink-haired girl. They say that, Daisuke's grandmother's not feeling great, so he probably won't be here today. And Yumoto is just like, this isn't some class field trip, even though he was yelling at the First Division for saying to them that it wasn't just a class field trip, which was kind of funny. But yeah, they basically established Granny Kanbei isn't feeling particularly great. So I was like, oh, all right, that's kind of surprising. I didn't know that she was, I guess she's old, but I didn't think she was particularly frail. At least she didn't seem that way. So I was kind of surprised to hear that she was feeling under the weather. But Daisuke does show up anyway. In fact, Daisuke arrives with the best looking car in the best looking suit, walks right into the meeting, no problem. And the dude there knows him. As I will be referring to him, President Mustache is very aware of Kanbei. In fact, he says that his country owes him, or rather that he owes him a great deal, because the Kanbei company has been very helpful in helping him build tools that he needs for his security forces and just the country in general. And they're basically there to talk about some bridge. It's not very important. They're basically just there to talk about a bridge that they're building. One of the dudes does not one of the dudes, but people in said country aren't a fan of this bridge, so it's going to be built over an area that is very special to the country, and it basically becomes a hostage situation, not a hostage situation, but a terrorist. Oh shit, shouldn't have said that. It basically becomes there's a bomb. It becomes a bomb defusal type of thing, and it's not really important. it is, but it's not. It's everything that happens around it, because in terms of the situation of the week, right, the crime of the week, that is what's important. But in terms of the overall narrative and what struck me most, it's not very important. What's important is that Daisuke gets caught in the middle of this. And when I say caught, I mean Daisuke was absolutely placed in the middle of this on purpose. And I say that because Granny Kanbei wasn't feeling particularly great. So Daisuke went in her place. I have to assume that to some degree that was planned. I'm not saying Granny Kanbei did that. I'm saying that somebody else did that. And I don't really think, to me, the only 2 people it could be is Hattori and Suzue. But it can't be Suzue, because she gets almost killed on the way to go save this fool. And I don't think it's Hattori either, because Hattori doesn't strike me as that kind of dude. So I'm left sort of sitting here going like, I don't know who it is, but it's very, very evident that things are going down right now, that somebody's out gunning for Daisuke. And that, to me, is pretty... It's a scary thought, because Daisuke can't live without money, you know what I mean? Like, Daisuke, he's capable. He's absolutely capable. We've seen him do some badass things, but he's a bit aloof when it comes to, like, being without money. So if he were to be, like, in a situation where he doesn't have Hugh, he doesn't have his money, like, we've seen what happens when he doesn't have Hugh. He's still capable. He does attempt to, like, defuse the bomb on his own, so, like, kudos to that. But we know what happens when he's without, and I'm kind of concerned he might find himself in a situation where he doesn't have Hugh, he doesn't have his money, and he might be in a bad way. Thankfully, he does have Haru and the Modern Crimes Division now, like, to help back him up. And Suzue, of course, too, and Granny Kanbei, if worse comes to worse. But I'm just concerned, you know what I mean? Like, just, like, everything that happened here, it was alarming. Because the bomb itself is pretty much set to go off in this, like, panic room, right? And this panic room, it's locked from the outside. So now you have a very serious crisis, because inside is a security team member, President Mustache, and Daisuke. And Daisuke is like, okay, Hugh, how do I get out of this? Like, Hugh, what's going on with this bomb? And they explain that, like, oh, it's from, where is the bomb from here? Let me see. Poliador. The country's name is Poliador. So the bomb was mostly crafted in Poliador, but it has pieces of tech from, like, Kanbei's company, right? So Kanbei's like, oh, okay, great. Hugh, I'm gonna need to know what's in there. And they explain that even if you try to defuse the bomb, there's a chance that in the defusal process, it will release this type of gas that can, like, kill thousands or something like that. And so even, like, really touching the thing is kind of scary, right? So Daisuke's like, okay, Hugh, we're gonna need to figure out how to defuse this thing without, like, setting off the gas. So I'm really gonna need you here. And Hugh's just like, I'm afraid I can't help you with that. And Daisuke's like, what do you mean? Like, it's our company. Just give me the blueprints, I'll figure it out then. And then he's told that he does not have authorization to access that information. So, to recap, Daisuke, who has been using Hugh for the last 5 episodes, perfectly fine, even up to this point, using Hugh, perfectly fine, no issues, no nothing, for the first time is told that he does not have authorization to access something, even though it's Daisuke. And I know he's not the head of the company, as we establish, it's still Granny Kanbei. But even though he's not the head of the company, he should still have access to all these things, telling us that there's secrets in Daisuke's life that he is not made privy to. There's things that he is not even aware of, and things that he is being locked out of. If it's not, like, even if it was just this bomb situation, it's still something where somebody clearly knew Daisuke was going to be there and didn't want him having access to how to defuse the bomb. And at first I'm thinking, like, maybe it's somebody within the company who's, like, with that dude Ricardo, who, like, set the bomb up in the first place. But it's clearly not, because, again, like, we find out a little bit later what's going on with the bomb. But it's very clearly, like, somebody in Daisuke's life who knew he would be there and just kind of used the Poliador situation as, like, a smoke just a smoke screen to kind of take out Daisuke along with him. Like, it helps out the dude, that dude Ricardo, but it also helps out whoever is clearly in the shadows right now, trying to take out Daisuke. Now, thankfully, Daisuke does manage to outthink the situation, right? Like, he does manage to, he sort of, like, dampens his, I believe it's a suit jacket, and then throws it over the bomb, and he just kind of, like, reels back, like this man's about to punch somebody in the face, only he's about to punch a bomb in the face, which, now that I say it out loud, is kind of the dopest thing Daisuke's done. But thankfully, yeah, Haru does jump in for the last second save. And I do mean, like, last second. Like, I think there was, like, a handful of seconds on the clock, and Haru tries to act cool, like, I just came in to save you, and he gets, like, pushed out the way by Daisuke, and then they get President Mustache and the bodyguard out of there. They shut the door just in time, just before the smoke the smoke hits them from the bomb, and they are safe. Now, the other thing that I feel is important to address is that when our lad Kame, who has not been in the show for a hot minute, by the way, when he points out that it's weird that the dude Ricardo didn't just release the guests the instant everybody was in the same area, it would have been a hell of a lot easier for him. Haru realizes that he was actually just trying to axe off President Mustache, and not everybody in the room. He wasn't trying to kill people, he was just trying to protect his home in Poliador. Now, this is interesting because Haru is staring at the screen in a way that you can see the gears turning, right? Which, yes, I say that a lot, but it's because it's a good phrase. So you can see Haru's gears starting to turn. And I think this is because, and maybe I'm stretching here, but this is just what I got from the scene, right? I think he's doing that because he's starting to realize that maybe somebody might be willing to take out just one person in order to save a greater whole, right? Like this dude, Ricardo, was willing to take out the president. He took out that poor chef and his coworker in order to save his home. In fact, he even dies for this, right? He like leaps off the building, willingly allowing himself to die if it means keeping his home safe. Now, Daisuke might be posing a problem. When I say might, we've seen how much this dude racks up. His balance is supposedly unlimited, but it might be making the company look bad, right? So maybe somebody within the company, and I'm not saying names, I'm not saying Suzue, I'm not saying Hattori, I'm just saying food for thought. Maybe Haru is starting to realize that somebody, in the same way Ricardo is trying to just protect his home, maybe somebody's just trying to protect their legacy. Maybe somebody's just trying to protect something important to them by taking somebody else off the board. Food for thought. We even see that there might be some nefarious stuff going on when we see what's going on with Cho. And Cho, we haven't seen this dude in a while either. Like, we haven't seen a lot of the Modern Crimes Division, which is too bad because I really like these characters, but we haven't seen them in a hot minute, and it's been a long, long time since we last saw Cho. And Cho, like, wanted to attend the whole, like, embassy meeting thing because, you know, like, his team was going, so he wanted to, because his team, First Division, got roped into playing bodyguard, so he wanted to go too, because he's a part of the First Division, you know, he feels like it's his job. But the boss, or the chief rather, who I'm going to be referring to as Boss Boo, because he's played by Boo from Dragon Ball Seiyu, and no, I'm not kidding, it's Majin Buu Seiyu. But Boss Boo basically tells him, like, nah, dude, it's your day off, and you're, like, a little ways from retirement, like, don't even worry about it. And on one hand, like, I at least appreciate that he's being nice to Cho, but at the same time, it's a little, like, demeaning to Cho without meaning to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, Cho's still capable of being an officer, you know what I mean? Like, he's still capable of being a cop. Like, you don't have to belittle him like that. Like, not that Boss Boo is purposely trying to belittle him. I think Boss Boo is just kind of trying to have a good time. And he doesn't want Cho to not have a good time. You know what he's like, dude, it's your day off. Plus, you're, like, close to retirement. Like, I don't really want you busting your hump if you don't have to around here. Like, if I can do it, or if we can do it for you, that's what I want to do. I want to make your last couple years here, like, comfy, you know? Like, at least that's what I assume he's trying to say. But Cho doesn't really take it that way. But interestingly, neither does Daisuke, because Daisuke is sitting on the couch where he normally sits, where he's, like, he's in the room, but he's kind of off on his own. And he's, like, leaning back in the chair, but you can see him leaning back just far enough where he's, like, listening in to what Cho and Boss Boo are talking about. So, to me, I think it's Daisuke being like, okay, I'm going to get Cho to be my eyes on the ground where I can't see. So, and we see this specifically when Cho ends up, like, listening in to, like, certain events. Like, we see Cho, like, way afterwards, like, towards the end of the episode. We haven't seen him since the beginning of the episode where he gets told to stay home. We see him way later towards the end where we see Cho in the crowd watching the first discover the jammer, the radio jammer. And I got concerned, right? Because I'm like, not Cho! Like, I thought maybe the show was trying to indicate that Cho was somehow involved. And I'm like, what? Not Cho? Because he's a good dude, right? So I was like, no, not Cho. But then we find out that Cho brings the bomb to, like, back to base, and he gives it to his friend, right? And he says, like him and his friend, like, basically analyze the bomb, and they find out that while, yeah, a lot of it was built in Poliador, there's a lot of pieces that were made here in Japan. So they have to now, like, sort of, like, you can see them sort of wrestling with the idea of, like, who could have done this? And Cho asks if it could be the Mizu Future Technologies group. And his buddy's like, yeah, actually it could be. And I highlighted this in my notes because I felt like this was really important, because Cho asked this, and he says, like, could it be the Mizu Future Technologies group? And his buddy is shocked. And as we see that, Daisuke is watching this all play out on his monitors back at home in, like, that cool bat cave thing that he has. And he's sort of watching this and nodding, and his buddy says, like, I'm shocked you know that. And Cho's like, yeah, well, you know. And he just sort of, like, nods. And to me, that was the idea that maybe, like, Daisuke has been prompting Cho to say certain things and to suggest certain things. Like, maybe Cho is on the payroll, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a way that I'm saying that Cho is, like, a dirty cop or anything. I mean, like, I'm saying that in the sense that Cho wants to be a cop again, and Daisuke is saying, like, help me figure out this case. So I feel like maybe Daisuke's, like, kicking him a couple extra bucks, or just asked him to help, and Cho would obviously say yes. So I do think Cho is trying to help Daisuke figure out what's going on and who is maybe out to get Daisuke. Because again, I really think something bad's going down. And speaking of bad, I gotta talk about the workplace environment. I don't know if there's an HR in this particular division, but between Boss Boo talking to coworkers in sort of like a playful way, and taking coworkers out for food after hours, and the fact that you could tell that girl was just a wee bit uncomfortable, that had me like, ooh, yikes. I like you, Boss Boo, but, like, mind your step, my guy. And then the two chiefs, you have the chief for the modern crime team, Boss Boo, and then you have the first investigation division, that being Chief. So these two different divisions have, like, friction, and they sort of, like, there's just, like, a tension between them, right? Because Boss Boo is like, well, don't worry, we'll try to stay out of your way. And Chief, the guy from the first division, is like, yeah, that'd be nice. Like, so you can just tell, like, there's friction between these two. And it does make sense, because we've seen that Chief is very much, like, an intense, no-nonsense cop, right? Like, he's a good cop from what we've seen, I hope anyway. Whereas Boss Boo, he's just kind of lackadaisical, you know? He's not really in this for the same sort of, like, altruistic reasons that maybe somebody like Chief is. So, of course, they have friction, you know? But what's worse, and I really mean this, and I highlighted this, the first division, including Hoshino, are a big bag of dicks. I gave this fool the benefit of the doubt, and we talked about this last week, but Hoshino, and listen, I know that everybody in this show is somebody's husbando or waifu, but listen, Hoshino is worst boy. No, Hoshino's not worst boy, actually. Hoshino is second worst boy. Worst boy is the dude with the glasses. This man is awful. Awful! Like, the fact that they were like, that they just, like, treat them like garbage the whole time. Like, the first is constantly belittling the Modern Crimes Division, and before anybody says, like, yeah, I get it that the Modern Crime Division is seen as somewhat of a joke and unnecessary, but that's no reason to be a dick, you know what I mean? Like, they're still part of your team, and not to mention your coworkers. That's so unhealthy. That's so not cool to do to somebody you work with. And in general, it's just like, I don't even care if they didn't work with them, if they were just random bystanders. It's still a douche thing to do. And don't forget, too, there is a bystander who gets treated like dirt by the First Division, specifically by Glasses. I hope Glasses, like in my head, when I saw the food delivered, I thought, because we saw that scene with the chef, that maybe the food was, like, poisoned or something. And I was kind of hoping that the dude from the first with the glasses, and Hoshino, if I'm totally honest, got poisoned. I was legitimately hoping that they would eat the food and we wouldn't have to worry about the First Division anymore, and maybe that would push our gang into solving more crimes. Because honestly, Hoshino be getting on my nerves. Glasses dude has got to go. When he goes, because I have a feeling like they're setting this character up where he can be a character who dies and we don't feel bad. And when he goes, I will laugh. And when Hoshino goes, I will not laugh, but I will be like, okay, like, later, Hoshino, like, I won't feel a friggin' thing. Because, like, this dude constantly with the, like, I have no intention of answering any more questions. This is holier than thou, high and mighty nonsense. Hoshino, take your self-righteous ass out of the show. Hopefully you can get caught in an explosion, my boy, because you are second worst boy. And again, I know that definitely bothers some folks, and I am sorry I said that, But, and again, I am willing to be proven wrong. Maybe Hoshino can prove me wrong and become a best boy. I don't know. But where I'm standing currently, keep in mind that these are episodic. These are episodic videos. These are just my discussions per week on an episode. This is just my thoughts on an episode per week. And where my thoughts are, in this moment in time, in this very second of history, my thoughts are that Hoshino is second worst boy. Just getting beaten out by Glasses Dude from the first, because Glasses Dude from the first is worst boy. But Hoshino, close second. And lastly, I quickly just want to, give some shout out to the gang in the Modern Crimes division, who were very unenthused about showing up as bodyguards. You got Yumoto, who I don't think I've ever said his name up until this week, but he's like the angry one of the group. He pretty much seems like he's ready to whoop the first's ass, except I don't think he would probably do all that well because he doesn't seem as trained as the first. So I have a feeling they might whoop his ass if he tried, but he's basically the hothead. Saiki is the one who's clever enough on her feet to actually realize that the dude who we meet later, the OG-sama, like the janitor guy, that he had the same key that opened up the panic room. So I have to give it up to Saiki, who is also just fantastic. I love this character. She's super sweet. She's been great every time she shows up. She gets little scenes up until now, and now she gets a sizable scene, not the biggest scene or ever or anything, but a decent enough scene. You get OG-sama, who is hilarious. The fact that he's been using the spare key to use the panic room for less than work-related activities. Let's just say that. Not quite work-related activities. OG-sama be using that panic room for. Kame, who's basically Kame we've seen a bunch. Kame's been my dude. I really like Kame. We haven't seen him, at least we haven't had him show up prominently in what feels like ages, mostly just because it's been so long between episodes 2 and 3. But this dude hasn't shown up in a hot minute, so when he showed up again, I'm like, Kame, where the hell have you been? He is very clearly not quite meant to be an Kame, I don't think will ever make it to the first, because my dude ran out of steam quickly and had acted sort of lackadaisical, though he was vaguely concerned about the situation. But when, they corner the dude, Kame is just oh, by the way, my phone's not working. Isn't that crazy? It's Kame, that's a huge situation. And when they have to run back, he's man, he just seems maybe not cut out to be in the first. Maybe Modern Crimes is where Kame belongs. And again, like I said, Sho as well deserves some credit for kind of hanging out on the sidelines and getting work done. But also Suzue. Suzue, gets almost destroyed in this episode trying to get to Daisuke. Suzue is flying down the road on this motorcycle, and I mean flying, right? And she suddenly gets pretty much sideswiped, not really, but kind of. She moves out of the way of a cat, a stray cat wanders across the street, and again, she's flying on this bike. I'm shocked she wasn't more hurt than she was, but Suzue's desire to keep Daisuke safe ends up sort of fueling her to pick herself up and walk the rest of the way to the embassy. And when they finally see her, she is all banged up. And like I said, while the rest of the crew were necessary in order to get, well, maybe not Yumoto, but while the rest of the crew were necessary in order to get the gang, to get Daisuke out of that situation, Suzue kind of arrived late, but I have to commend her because she almost died getting there. So I have to give Suzue her credit. I really like Suzue. I really, really like Suzue. So I had to give her some time to shine. But yeah, the whole crew, the whole crew, the whole side crew were really fantastic in this week's episode. But with that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. What do you guys think, by the way, about who could be up to something nefarious? Is it Hattori? Could it really be Suzue? I doubt it, but maybe. But I think it might be Hattori, which sucks. I hope not, because I really like him. But who could it be? Do you think I'm reaching? Let me know in the comments. But before you do, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful folks. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to see your name joining these beautiful names, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. For less than a cup of coffee a month, just a single $1, you can see your name flying across the screen, and I would sincerely appreciate that. But without further ado, everybody, I am going to go scheme some more about what could possibly be happening in Balance Unlimited, and until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.